Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of Floating Thoughts. If you are new here, my name is Lally and I am your host. If you are not new here, welcome back. Thank you guys for all the support that we have been receiving on the podcast. I love having every individual here. I think I get to learn a lot about them. So today I have another guest for you guys. I know that you guys have been loving the guests that I've been having, and I have been loving having them too. So today we have Angelica.
Hi.
Angelica and I don't really know each other. I think we just actually right before starting, we found out that we went to the same schools, but we don't we think we might have classes together, but we don't know.
Sure.
That's debatable. We'll let you guys know later on. But we kind of just been following each other on social media. So that's how we kind of got in contact, but I'm just gonna hand over the mic to her, and I kind of want to ask you who you are now and then who you were growing up.
Okay. So I'm Angelica. I'm 26. Right now I am in school getting my psychology degree. I also work full-time as an admin assistant. And who I am now versus who I was back then. Well, I have a ton of siblings. So I have 8 siblings that my parents had together, and then 2 that my dad had before him and my mom got together.
Okay.
So altogether, 10 of us.
Oh my god.
And I'm the baby, so I was very, I hate to say it, I was very spoiled, but I was also very quiet.
Okay.
Because there was so many personalities in the house that I kind of just got pushed to the side. I spent a lot of time with my parents, more so than my siblings. Because it was like they always had, like we had a pair, and then because their ages were so close.
Yeah.
And then there was me and my brother who were close in ages, but he was a boy, I was a girl. So he wanted to play outside all the time. And I'm like, no thanks. I want to bake and like play with my dolls and stuff. So I was very quiet. I was very much an introvert.
Yeah.
And then I started dealing with anxiety really bad. That started probably like 6th grade up until high school. Yeah. And so now I'm kind of out of that.
Yeah.
The more I've gotten independent, the more I've experienced, the more I've met, more people and new people, I'm grown out of that introvert anxiety phase. Thank God. Thank God, because that's kind of like a prison, honestly, a mental prison. Yeah.
Was there like something specific that caused your anxiety, or like that you know of?
Bullying.
Bullying? Really?
Bullying, yeah. Like, so with that many siblings, like we're bound to like get into it here and there. And with brothers, they're cutthroat. Like, they will call you the meanest names.
Wait, so you were bullied by your siblings?
By my siblings. Like, yeah.
Oh my
now
gosh.
I fight back. I'm like, you want to go like joke for joke? So it started at home, unfortunately. And then it snowballed into school. I was very, very overweight kid. Like, I was morbidly obese. And then by the time I got to high school, I lost like 90 pounds. Yeah. It wasn't from really like bad eating, like, what is it? ED? Eating disorders. Or anything. I just worked out, ate right, and yeah. So bullying.
Oh my gosh. But is it like, so was it in school, it was just more so that they felt like, because you were overweight that they bullied
just because
you?
I was overweight. Yeah. Like, I think being overweight, an introvert, makes you an easier target, especially either girls that want to fit in or boys that want to fit in, or like the attention. And unfortunately, growing up, that's how kids got popular for the most part, is making fun of, being the class clown, and yeah.
Oh my gosh. How did you deal with it? Or is it you just didn't?
Oh, it got the best of me. Like, I started I don't know how deep do you want to go?
What? No. How much do you want to share? How much you want to
So
share?
I dealt with it in a very unhealthy way in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I started self-harming when I was like 9. And then it went on until probably my junior year of high school.
Oh, wow.
And then I was admitted into a mental hospital my freshman year of high school.
Oh my gosh.
So I self-harm starting 9. And I don't know, like mom's intuition, like I would go in my parents' bathroom, take my dad's razor. Can I say that those things?
You can.
Okay, I would take my dad's razor and then I would go in my room, lock the door, be really quiet, and then knock, 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 knock on the door. It's like she would know. And sometimes it would be like I'd already started or right about to start. And so, yeah, and my parents really tried to help me, but I don't know, it wasn't until I was admitted into the hospital where I saw so many other girls that went through so much more worse than me, and it put things in perspective. Like, if it's my weight, and it's like, it was the bullying also, but also I was uncomfortable at the size that I was. So then I started working out. I started eating healthier. My parents got me into therapy, which helped tremendously. And and then I started handling the people that bullied me. Now, was that always the best way? No, but I went to the counselor. I would go to the teacher, assistant principal, and
you like started doing more for yourself.
Yeah.
Did that play like a role within like your self-esteem later on, like as far as for like, even if you weren't if you weren't overweight, were you still kind of like self-conscious or like insecure about certain things?
Yeah, like once I started losing the weight, people would come up and like, Angelica, like, you're so skinny now. Or my friends would hug me and like, I feel nothing but bones. Like, I'm like, okay, so before I was like too fat, now I'm too skinny.
Yeah.
And so I became very self-aware of myself and how I looked all the time. But I don't think it wasn't that bad. It was just like, I don't want to go back to who I was before.
That makes sense.
And
it's so crazy because I feel like even with like working out, as far as for, well, I would say maybe everybody could go through this, not necessarily women, but I think that it's like you can never really win, like especially if you were a specific weight before and now you're doing the work. It's like they want you to do the work, then you do the work, and it's kind of how you said, then it's kind of like, oh, now you did too much.
Yeah.
Now you need to eat something. And now you're like,
don't lose any more weight.
First it was don't eat anything, and now it's eat everything.
Yes.
Like, which one is it? And I think that's why I think I'm just such a big advocate for, like, do what makes you happy and where you feel the most at, like, ease, because body dysmorphia is so real.
It's so real.
And, like, you would never, like, you look back at certain pictures where like, you were probably the thinnest, and you're like, oh, my God, I remember thinking that I was really fat here.
Yeah.
Or whatever the case may be. And it's like, it wasn't that serious.
It wasn't.
You know?
It wasn't.
But I think it's such a society thing that you have to fit a certain aesthetic, or even, like, it's weird, but, like, what the norms of, like, before, it was, I want to say maybe in the 90s or 2000s, it was, like, very skinny for, like, models and things like that. And then it turned, like, curvy. And now it's, like, kind of, like, back to being very skinny. And it's, like, oh, we can't keep up.
like, the society, you can't please society. You can't please everybody. And I've learned, if you look in the mirror and you like what you see, that's all that matters. Like, you're not going to please everybody.
Yeah.
And someone's always going to talk. Everyone's always going to have an opinion. So I'm at the point, if I like what I see, then I'm good.
I agree. And I think it's, I mean, I know that it was probably very harsh for what you went through, especially at such a young age. And, like, but you're right, like, thank God for, like, mothers, because if something could have been so much, occurred something worse, you know, just because maybe they, if they weren't there. How did your parents react when they found out?
Um, my mother was terrified. My dad, like he 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 I don't know how to put it in a way that's like not too harsh.
Yeah.
But he was like, depression isn't real.
Mm.
Ooh, I know some people are gonna but I feel like we all have a family member that that way. Typically it's like the older generation, but he was like, depression isn't real. You just need God.
Yeah.
And he always brought up God. And I will say, like, growing up, I did not really believe in God. I didn't believe he existed. And the way my dad was, he was so stern. And it was like he was very forceful about it.
I got you.
And so I was like, I don't want any parts in that. It was like rules. Yeah. And so they made sure I was going to therapy. They got me on antidepressants and anxiety medication. Yeah, that's how they dealt with it. Yeah, I took it. My mom, she was very worried all the time. Yeah. So no shut doors, no locked doors.
Like strict about.
Very strict. And I thank God for that. I thank her for that. Yeah.
I feel like even just touching down on the, like how your dad didn't think depression was so real, I feel that to the core. Just because, and it's nothing against their beliefs, because I feel like to an extent growing, like now, I'm not saying it's not real, but I do think that there's like different ways of handling it. But I think because of how much innovation we've gotten now, but I grew up in a Hispanic household, and I think that's so big there. Like they're just like, clean the house. You're just bored, or you're just
lazy.
You're just being lazy. Turn on the lights. And I'm like,
put down
it's
the
deeper
phone.
than that. Yeah, it's like, it's because you're always on that phone. I'm like, no.
But sometimes it really is that phone.
Well, no, yes, no, you're right. Sometimes, and that's why I say, like, growing, like, once you're in that, I don't want to call it a funk, because it's not really a funk, but once you're in that, like, headspace, let's say, of depression, I feel like it's easier to say when you haven't been there, to just kind of be like, just do something about it. Just motivate yourself. Get out of there. Go run or something. It's sad because that's really what's kind of going to kind of help you. But the problem is that you can't do it at the moment. You know, it's difficult. You literally feel like
you don't have the motivation.
Exactly. So it's like, I don't you think I want to do it for myself? But it's just I can't physically do it for myself right now.
Exactly.
So I think that's so normalized, especially when it comes from someone that maybe hasn't lived through it, or as parents, I feel like, you know, they're trying their best to kind of help you, shape you, and they're hurting as well, but it's also like difficult to accept it because of the different times that
because I feel like back then, like, they didn't acknowledge it, so like, you know, their parents didn't care, you know, or they didn't even talk about it. So now I guess we're just sensitive.
I know, we're just like, but I think it's good that now it's like it's our job for futuristically to like know about it, get educated on it, because one thing I can say is sometimes there's misconceptions about depression. Like, some people can be very, very sad, and then they just quickly are like, I'm depressed, and they misuse the word. Even with like anxiety, I've talked about it before, that I suffered from anxiety, and I don't like wish it upon anybody, because panic attacks are horrible, but I think sometimes people just get nervous and they're like, oh, it's my anxiety. Oh, it's my anxiety. And it's like, no, don't even say that, because I feel like it's not that, you know. And I think if you don't deal with it, then you don't really know. You know what I mean? But I hope you guys got to know her a little bit. I really did. It's crazy. But before we get kind of started and dive a little bit deeper into more conversation, I'm gonna do the little box.
Okay.
So with this box right here, there's gonna be a couple of questions. Some might be deep, some might be just funny, or whatever the case may be. You just pick one, read it out loud, and then kind of...
I get to pick. Okay.
Yeah, you get to pick it.
Okay, I'll get this one. If you could only communicate through song lyrics for the rest of your life, which song would you choose as your personal anthem? What?
Take your time. Take your time, please.
I love music though. Like this
Yeah.
is hard.
Take your time. You're fine.
That's so hard. Do you have one?
No. So I thought about one. So I love J. Cole, but I feel like I told myself last time that I picked this question that I was gonna figure it out by this time, but I don't think I have one just yet. I really love the idea of Love Yours by J. Cole, but I think I don't like lyrically, I don't fully approve, you know?
Yeah.
But I feel like just the meaning behind it of like loving your life as is and like
Yeah.
truly love what you have. I like the idea of it, but I think I'm still in like shambles, like whether that would be my anthem.
That's like that's like you're walking by, someone just hears that song.
Yes,
and
like you're
describes
just you step as soon as you step out the door, it's like dun dun dun.
I would say there's two.
Okay.
Kid by I'm having a brain fart. And I listen to a lot John Bellion.
Let's see. Here.
Then the second one, it's like a mixtape. And so it's just like one giant 30-minute song that I listen to.
Okay.
And I feel like every song just describes me.
Let me see.
Very well. Yeah. But the two, they're similar in a way of like live your life. Pretty much.
Kid Again. Oh,
Kid Again. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, Kid Again.
I know exactly. That's a good song. If you guys have not heard it, this is not sponsored. But if John Billion, if you hear this, sponsor this episode. If you guys have not, I think I already said this, but if you guys have not heard that song, it's a really, really good song. And also, I don't know, have you looked at the video where it's like him creating the song?
Yeah.
That's what made me like the song.
He is so talented.
He is.
Like, he's a musical
I don't think a lot of
genius.
people. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves.
He
either.
doesn't. He writes a lot of songs for popular artists.
Just to put it on here for you guys. It's so crazy because even though it's like a little bit like beaty, I would say, the meaning behind it is so much deeper than like. I think when you hear songs like that, you kind of
you listen to it for the beat.
Right? But then when you read the lyrics, it's deep. Yeah. What was the other one?
It's by Will Reagan, and I think it's called Pursuit. Like that's the name of the mixtape.
Pursuit. What was her first name?
Will Reagan.
Oh, yeah. I'm over here playing Bill.
Bill Reagan.
I was like, no, it sounds like a president name.
Yeah, there it is.
This one?
Yeah. But it's like 30 minutes.
Oh, it really is 30 minutes.
It is.
34 minutes. I'll have to listen to this.
It's really good.
Why do you think that those would be your anthem? Like, do you have like a specific line maybe or something?
Well, in Kid Again, he's like, I'm a kid again, I can do anything. And then in that one, he says it's like a mashup of different songs.
Okay.
But I think it's like the second one that starts. He's like, live your life. And it's like, don't apologize. And then he's like, we'll see you in heaven. Like, basically just live, you know? Do the best you can while you're here. So that's why I like both of them. Like, because dealing with anxiety, you create scenarios in your mind that are not true. It's just like fear-driven, pretty much. So for me, it prevented me from like living my life. You know, I would think of like the worst possible scenario of what I want to do, and then I won't do it. Or while I'm doing it, I would be so in my head that I trip up on my words, or I won't execute, you know, whatever it is the way that I want to. And so that reminder of just live your life. And fun fact, I worked with kids for like 4 years. Okay. So I love children. Like, if someone told me, do you want to be, this might sound weird, but someone said, if you want to be in a world full of kids over adults, I'll take kids any day.
I think, and kids are very honest. So I love that.
That's the scary part too. Like, they're brutally honest, but that's the beauty in it. Like,
No, you know what's so funny about that? It's crazy. Yesterday we went to chocolate bar, and we went to like this little patio thing outside, and there was a little kid, there was like a couple kids. He just literally came up to us. I kid you not. He was probably like maybe 3 years old or 4 or 5. He's like, just a fair warning, we're gonna be running around here, okay? Just want to warn you. And I was like, oh my gosh. But it's the fact that like he really meant that. Like, if you're gonna be out here, you're not gonna complain about me running and playing around. My parents sent me
outside for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought it was so cute, but like so beautiful, because I'm like, if people just did that as a regular, you know, it was like, okay, appreciate the honesty.
Yeah.
But it was the fact he really went up there like, I'm here to warn you. I was like, oh, okay, period.
That's so cute.
So, no, I agree. I would choose kids over adults.
And then that reminder of just like, in God's eyes, we're his children.
Yeah.
And he wants us to have a childlike heart. And so reminding myself of that, of like, kids, they don't know fear.
Yeah.
They're very like, I won't say, they are ambitious.
Yeah.
And curious. And so that reminder of just live and do what's on your heart. Do what's, you have the desire to do. And if God put it there, like, he wants you to do it, and he's going to be there before you, behind you, surrounding you to make sure you're protected and to make sure that you get there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I like those two.
No, those are really good. Now that you say that, I think I came up with my song, "Temporary Home" by Carrie Underwood.
Oh, I don't know that one. No.
And it's so crazy because I think I was just talking about it this week. But basically, I love Carrie Underwood. But that song, when I was younger, I didn't understand really the song meant, right? So she puts like 4 different scenarios, and it's like the first one is a kid. It's a foster kid, right? And then it's like her asking the foster kid, like, why does he just have a bag and he's just going to another house, and he's like smiling and he's like looking up at God, and he's like, oh, this is just my temporary home, like it's not where I belong, right? And then she goes to an adult, like it kind of goes through different people, and then the ending is like her grandpa, and the grandpa is like dying, and she says the same thing, like, we're all crying, but the grandpa smiles, and he's like, oh, it's okay, like, this is not my temporary home. And in a way, it's kind of similar to what you just said, but I think that's why it made me realize that recently when I heard it again, because I haven't heard this song in a long time, when I heard it again, I was like, I'm going to start living my life like that. Like, certain things are not that serious, but also realizing that this is just our temporary home. Like, this is all we have. Everything we're doing is not gonna matter after we die. Like, you know, it's like, and it's really, we don't really own, as much as we say we own things, we don't really own anything.
We can't take it with us.
It's gonna all stay here. My Crocs, they're all gonna stay here. They're all gonna stay here. So I think now as an adult listening to that song, sorry J. Cole, I'm gonna give this one to Carrie Underwood. Temporary home would be mine. So
that's a good message.
We need to listen to a song. Okay, we'll switch songs. I'll send you. Okay, listen to yours, and then you tell me what you think of mine. But I know that you mentioned a little bit about like anxiety, and then kind of like growing up. Now, how do you think that, like, how do you feel like now that you've like overcame all those things?
Honestly, I feel like a different person.
Yeah.
I feel so sure of myself. And it's crazy because I wasn't like that up until a year ago. I feel like I was very much still that, I would say anxiety-driven person, and still cared about what people thought, not speaking up for myself.
Yeah.
And now today, like, I don't know that girl. Sorry to that girl. Gone. I don't miss you. She's so gone.
What did Taylor still say? What is it? She's like, Taylor? She's like, can I come to the phone right now? Why? Because she's dead.
She really is dead. Like,
Yeah. I know I saw recently, I think it was a video that you posted about, oh my gosh, what was the video about? how did you start? I can't remember how you started, but basically you were talking about
It was me?
God. It was you.
Talking?
Yeah, no?
Was I in my car?
Yes. About a drive-through, right? You're going through drive-through. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I had seen that video.
Old Angelica would not have done that.
And so that's what I was going to bring up. I was going to tell you, like, do you feel like now that you're saying that you're speaking up for yourself, is it just like because you're just kind of going through the motions of like everything you missed out on, like not maybe not doing it when you were younger or whatever the case may be?
I never thought of it like that. No, that's a really good question. I would say, well, in a sense, yeah. I would say I have like a zeal for life now. Because with all I've gone through and experience, it's like what we were talking about a second ago, like you really only get one life.
Yeah.
And when I leave, like I want to hear my good and faithful servant not depart from me. I never knew you. Like, and so, yeah, and just my relationship with God. I feel like in that video, that was all God and just me being obedient.
Yeah.
And I drove home. I don't even think I mentioned that in the video, but I sobbed for like 20 minutes because I was like, man, like I really have not been living my life. I've been so self-absorbed. And I think also when you deal with anxiety, you are self-absorbed, but just in a different way.
Yeah.
You're always thinking about yourself, how you're perceived, what you look like, and you don't experience the other people around you. You don't pay attention to the world around you, the people that are in need around you. It's selfish, honestly.
Yeah.
It's it's hard to say because there's so many people that deal with it, but it's true.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the lady that I helped out in the drive-thru, she wasn't thinking about my makeup, my outfit, like none of that. Like she was blessed. Yeah. And I'm just grateful that I was able to be a vessel in that moment.
I think it's interesting how everybody has different takes of like whether it's anxiety or depression or just like in general, but I think that you made a good point. I do think that sometimes when you deal with anxiety, it's not necessarily that you're choosing to do it, that you're being selfish, but you're just, again, you're not a mosquito wanting to be featured on here. You're just so, it's so self-absorbed that you don't realize that you're doing it.
Yeah, you don't realize it. Yeah. It's like once you get on that train, like it just keeps going.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like you don't know when the stop is coming, you know? And it sucks because growing up, the same thing, like it stems from something. And sometimes anxiety is not something that you're just naturally born with. It can come from some deep trauma, or it can just spike from the nowhere, you know. Sometimes people don't understand it, so like, and sometimes I do hate how it's portrayed in like movies or films because it's not different. Cute. Yeah, and it's
not to be romanticized.
Really, it's different types of anxiety too, and I think that if you're going to portray it somewhere, it needs to definitely be explained. Wow. Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions on it, and it's also the people that deal with it. You also have to have a good support system around you. Yeah. Because, and what I mean by that is that sometimes people think that it's the same thing, like, you know, oh, it's gonna pass, or you're just nagging, or whatever the case may be. Understanding what that person is going through, why, where it's stemming from, but also trying to help them rather than put them back into an anxious place, if that makes sense. Because I think from a person that, like you said, like when you are anxious, there's little things that will bother you that would not normally bother a person that's not anxious, you know? I think it's just minimal. Like, I put an example, like you could literally be walking to the store and you could think everybody's staring at you if you have and you're like, they notice, like let's say you did something different, like you dyed your hair that day. they all think it's bad. And it's not necessarily that you want them to all eyes on me. It's not that, is you feel that way.
Exactly.
And really, these people are probably like, oh, I said I was going to get a tomato. I'm going to get it. But when they do that, you're thinking in your head, yep. They
They're
think my
thinking,
hair is
"Dang, her
ugly.
hair is terrible."
Yeah. And it's like, you don't intentionally mean to do that. But that's what,
Yeah.
like, I think you're kind of meaning, hinting towards, like, self-absorbed. You know what I mean? Like, you think everything is about you. But when we say that, it's not in a good way. Like, you think it's
not,
like in a bad way,
Yeah.
you know? So if you are dealing with anxiety, I see you, I feel you. And it's not easy to be in that spot, but it doesn't mean you can't get out of there.
Yeah.
I think I've seen this really good. Do you listen to Mel Robbins?
Here and there, yeah.
She recently came up with this new episode. I'm not gonna say I listened to it all because I think I just saw a clip on TikTok, but she made a good point on talking about how people say anxiety and how, like, you put it because, like, kind of like, you know, the tongue holds power, but you just saying, like, my anxiety is like you more so claiming
like
it.
ownership. Yeah.
So it's kind of like not claiming it, because then it's becomes so easy for you to just say, like, oh, it's just my anxiety. It's just my anxiety.
Yeah, you don't deal with
Exactly.
it then. It's
And
like a part of you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So she was just, her recommendation was to kind of stay busy with the things you do, so you don't allow it to affect you. And sometimes it works. It's not going to work, I feel like, all the time, but it's a step towards fixing it, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Two things that helped me, because I deal with it when I was, like, going into somewhere. I would, like, sit in my car and, like, delay a little bit. As soon as I park, I check my surroundings, turn my car off, get out. Like, no time to overthink. If I get an opportunity, if I'm invited somewhere, yes. And I'm making myself go.
Yeah.
Because, and it's, like, snowballed. Like, it's to the point I don't even think, you know, really about it anymore, about if people are staring or something crazy is going to happen to me as soon as I step inside this building. Like, it's just my second nature to just do
it. Yeah.
The more you do it, like, the repetition, it becomes habit. And also you, like, mentioned earlier about, like, just being nervous and not having anxiety. And now I'm able to pinpoint, I'm just nervous. Like, I'm just nervous. I don't have anxiety. I'm just nervous. I've never done this before. And so now being able to differentiate the two helps so much. Like, so yeah, if you're struggling with anxiety, just a few practical tips. Like, you don't have to live with it forever.
Yeah.
You really don't.
Do you think, I know you said that at first, like, kind of with, like, your relationship with God wasn't, like, maybe as strong because of the things you were dealing with. When you got closer to God, do you feel like that helped with your anxiety a lot?
Yeah. And, like, I've met people that don't believe in God that also deal with it, and I don't want to sound like, I think about my dad all the time, and I'm like,
it's not real.
It's just Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, he'll take that away.
Yeah.
Like, it's, and I've had people tell me, well, I prayed and he didn't do anything, and I'm like, same. I prayed quite a few times and he didn't do anything. But it wasn't until I was desperate and, like, crying and, like, God, please take this away. Like, please. And it's not like you have to cry. You have to do this performative act. It's, you're sincere.
That's what I was going to say.
He knows that you're sincere. He knows that you're not being double-minded. You don't have a secret agenda. You're not looking at him as just some genie. Like, you need him.
Yeah.
And I think when you get to that place of realizing you need him, that's when your heart is open to receive him and what he can do and wants to do. And so, yeah, sorry, non-believers out there, but Jesus was really what helped.
I agree, and I do think that, like, I was just thinking about this the other day, that sometimes recently, honestly, I want to say everybody that I probably had on this podcast, you know, my intention was never to bring, like, God into it. God, I would always mention it because he's done a lot for me. Exactly. But it was never, like, I don't write you a certain message to say, like, make sure you mention God in this podcast. And what I find so beautiful, that in each episode is always that God is mentioned. And I think it's so beautiful, because that means God has done something in you, and that has made you who you are today. And with the anxiety thing, I suffered. I have an episode with one of my closest friends about this. I suffered with so much anxiety, just even like a couple years back. And I never really understood what it stemmed from. Don't get me wrong, I do get nervous of like going places now, just because we talked about it, like the whole parking situation. Please, for the love of God, fix the parking. But I know, please, and it'll take away my nervousness. But I used to be like so anxious for like the smallest things, and I would annoy myself because I'm like, why am I so anxious? And like, I would feel the heat through my body. Like, it was just super uncomfortable.
Oh, I remember that. Now
now
I want to go back.
Yeah, and like you can't breathe. Like, it was horrible. And I feel like after I was just telling my friend, I said, once I really got into like reading the Bible, understanding the meaning of be anxious for nothing, I feel like literally out of nowhere, I started noticing like my anxiety was gone. Like, I have not had an episode of like a panic attack or feeling like literally anxious, like that I feel like I'm about to stop breathing at any moment or whatever the case may be. So I agree, and I think that when I hear other people that are anxious or have anxiety, I'm just like looking at them, I'm like, I know you're gonna hate what I'm about to say, but read the Bible. Like, start your journey with God, because I feel like in a way that it could also be God just telling you like, come to me. Like, I've been here this whole time, you know? And you're not gonna fully understand it till you're ready, but I would say don't wait too long, you know?
Don't.
So, now...
That's so good. I'm happy for you.
Thank you. I have 2 questions.
Okay.
2 numbers. You're going to answer both of them, but just kind of goes whichever you want to go with first. The numbers for today are 11 and 97.
Okay.
Which one do you want to go with first?
97, because that's a big number.
Let's go with 97. Okay. What is a childhood show that has shaped you into the person that you are today? And is there a particular scene, character that helped build that?
Childhood show. I was like a huge like movie kid.
Okay, or a movie. It can be a movie.
But I would say Remember the Titans.
Really?
That's
okay, why? Or was there a particular like
that's hard too. I would just because gosh, now I'm thinking, should I have went with The Blind Side? Or did you watch Radio? Did you not?
No. I think, wait, hold on. I think I'm having deja vu a little bit, because I feel like someone has mentioned it. Like, oh, yes. Okay. That's all you need.
I'm going to go with all 3 of those. The Blind Side, Remember the Titans, and Radio. And I would say, because all of them, there was like a good guy and a bad guy. Almost in like every movie and show, but it helped me because I got bullied growing up, and so because I Remember the Titans, there was racism, and then that was bullying, and there was one kid that also got bullied as well. And then in Radio, he was bullied. Blind Side, he was bullied, and I like the idea of it being temporary, like it being temporary, and then also there will be someone there to help me. And I don't know if as I got older, I always had that mentality of like, there will be people in my corner, and sometimes there weren't. But as an adult today, I've fully learned of like, I had that fixation since I was a kid, but today it looks different. I have that fixation, but it's with God. And then also, like, naturally, he's brought people to help me, you know, whenever I needed it, so to speak. So I would say those three. And it's crazy because they were also kind of like cinematic. Like last week I was moving and I had like my brother and my brother-in-law to help me. And then I was like, you know what? I don't need your brother-in-law. Like, I think we got it because I don't have a lot of stuff. Well, last year I didn't have a lot of stuff, but this year I got a lot of stuff. So me and my brother was struggling, and he's like, Angelica, why would you tell him not to come? And literally while we were struggling, this wonderful man, he came and helped us. I'm trying to remember his name. I think it was Thomas. He was an older man. He saw we were struggling, and he helped us the whole time. The whole time.
Oh my God.
Didn't complain. I got to know him, where he was from, about his family, his wife, his kids. And he was like an angel, like just sent in that moment. He was like a brush of fresh air.
Oh my gosh.
And now that I'm mentioning it, like, I really want to bring him a gift or something to be like, thank you.
You're like, Thomas, I'll go get you something.
Yeah, like, so I would say, like, yeah, he does bring people that'll help you along the way. But you don't need people. You need God. That's what I learned.
Yeah.
And you know what you need. He'll bring you some people that'll, whether that's friends or if you're in a sticky situation or whether that's a partner, like, he's got you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has that changed over it though? Like, did it take time for you to understand that?
It took me a long time.
Yeah.
I was like searching for friendships, and then in the ones that I had, I always had that mindset of like, you know, community, which is good, but it depends on how you look at it. And so in those friendships, a lot of them weren't good for me, and I was like always overextending, and they fell off eventually anyways, and in the time it hurt, but today I'm like, thank God that it happened.
Yeah. Because
I was giving too much of myself, and also I probably wouldn't be where I am today with the friends that I had back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that I think we talked about that. I'm sorry, I'm always moving on here. But we talked about that a little bit on like other episodes about like seasonals. I think Jalen on our last episode, he kind of mentioned that. And I think that it's good to know that as well, because sometimes as people, we want to keep everybody in our circle
forever.
And especially I think coming from like, you know, trauma bond is a thing, one.
Yeah.
And then another thing is like sometimes you think that you can fix people, like, or it's not their fault. You know, we can keep trying in this friendship, relationship, or whatever the situation is. But doing that sometimes hurts you more than it actually helps you.
Yeah.
And I think keeping people longer, that wound is going to take longer to close.
Wow,
rather than, you know, just
when it needs to happen. Like, if you find yourself overextending and constantly making excuses for people and their behavior, or always like, well, maybe they went through this, they went through that, like, that's probably a sign you should probably maybe not cut them off, but take a step back and put them in a compartment of like associate or ex. Like,
no, and that's true. I think we and sometimes like it's crazy, but I know you guys kind of keep hearing this, but it's so true. Like, not everybody's meant to be in your life, and some people have to understand. I think it's also maybe like, I wouldn't know if that would be under like red flag category, but I think if people can't understand that they're not like in kind of like in a, not addition, but like they're not helping within your livelihood, then that it's okay to keep your distance from them. I don't think it's bad to just be like, oh, it's not you, like you're not about, but what I'm going through or the phase that I'm going through in my life right now, you're not fitting in that area, and that's okay. It's not anything against you, it's just more so for me, like in my growth process. And I think as adults we need to kind of pinpoint that out a little bit more, because we're not kids anymore where we just, oh, she doesn't want to talk to me, mom, you know, like it's okay, it's okay. Do you want to add a little more to that, or should we move on to the second question?
We can move on.
Okay. This question, this is going to be 11. This is, was there ever a time you questioned your purpose in the world? How has that changed today?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would say a few times. But I would say more so last year. I questioned my purpose. I questioned my existence. Like, yeah. And today it's changed. That's a loaded question. I don't know how to I don't know how to go about answering it. I would say yeah.
Yeah.
And it was very hard, very dark. Yeah.
Yeah. I know we don't have to dive deep into it, but I think when I was thinking about it, and I was like, I wonder if you kind of mentioned a little bit about it. It's also like you being more kind of like an advocate now, kind of like more open to a lot of the things that maybe you would have been against back then.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Wow, advocate. I never. Well.
Because I know, like, recently, I don't know how long ago. I always say recently for a lot of things, and it could be like a year ago. And I'm like,
you said recently about the chair, and I was like, 2 months. I was like,
you're like, recently means yesterday. No, well, I don't know. You can correct me how long ago this was, but it was recent for me. You posted on your story the situation, and I don't know if you want to talk about that, so I'm not gonna like dive deep into it. But seeing that from the outside in, and if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, follow her on Instagram. But it was a very deep situation and something harsh that happened to you, and I think it takes a lot of strength, right? And seeing that you posted something like that, I think that takes a lot, no matter who you are or what happened. I think just speaking on issues that, not even issues, just things like that really happen, it takes a whole lot, because you have to be prepared for what's coming, and then how people view you, what and you talked about a little bit about like your anxiety and all that, so worrisome about maybe that coming back because of the way people treat you, or whatever the case may be. So I think, would you say that maybe taking that step was also something that you probably wouldn't have done for yourself back then?
No, not at all. I think with that situation, it seems so taboo, but it happens so often. Yeah, I feel like I should just say it, because it'll help. It'll help tie everything in. It's up to you. I don't want to
like put everything on there.
Okay. Well, a year ago, February, I was assaulted. And so it is taboo, because so many people don't talk about it, and so many people don't go to the police. They don't tell people because they might feel shame behind it. So yeah, but to tie back into that question, I did question my purpose a lot, mainly because I was a different way before, and now I'm not. And so like back then I viewed it, like just last year I viewed it as like, I'm not who I was before, like this like joyful person, and I'm so sad now, and blah blah blah. And for a bit I was, until I started to speak out and speak up and get help and advocate for myself. And then that's when I realized how strong I actually am. And sorry, to tie back in, like, I did deal with anxiety for a long time. I was an introvert, and so that was hard for me. But I realized no one was going to do it for me. like no one was going, and they can't, like legally, like they can't speak for you.
Yeah.
If you're going, like with me, I spoke to detectives, DAs, sheriffs, and it was by myself. And I realized I had to speak. I had to like carry my own. I had to, I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
And so in that, I found my strength. And I spoke to so many. It's like God was like leading me to people that had went through what I went through.
Yeah.
And I would just tell them, and they tell me, oh, I went through the same thing. And the one thing I regret is just not going to the police. The one thing I regret is not speaking up for myself, and not just women, but it was also men too. And it was the embarrassment, it was feeling judged, and I didn't want to have that regret later down the line. But also, it's crazy because that's when I felt like I found my voice. And yeah, and it's like in that, like the anxiety, the fear, it kind of subsided because I felt like the purpose was so much bigger than what I was feeling internally.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a time I felt like I didn't have purpose. I dealt with depression a lot last year. Kind of before we started the podcast, you were talking about like the comedian.
Yeah.
And I was just in his shoes last year.
Yeah.
And I had that same thought of feeling like I can't even do this right.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time, it was literally in December. And I was like, okay, I'm going to play it off, have a normal day. Like, no one's going to suspect anything. And I'm going to do it. And as I planned out where I was going to do it at, like what I was going to use, everything. And then I had a friend call me, and I ignored her. And then she kept calling me, and I'm like, something is wrong. But I was like, well, she's going to have to find somebody else to talk to. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to answer. And we got to talking, and she wasn't doing well. So then I was there for her.
It was like reverse psychology on you.
Yeah. And so it was like, well, I'm going to do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And my sister called me, and I was like, wow. And in those conversations, they weren't just like, hey, what you up to? It was like very deep conversations.
Yeah.
And that was when like I told God, like, I don't want to be here anymore. I can't be here anymore. Like, I feel like I'm suffocating. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people were telling me, like, no, just live your life. Like, move on. Like, just live your life. But I felt like, I believe that when you go through things, like, God allows you to go through them for a greater cause and a greater purpose.
Yeah. And
with what I went through, like, it's not really spoke about in the Christian community. Mm-hmm. So I felt like I couldn't, but I shouldn't be quiet. And it's crazy because I spoke with my pastor about it, which was January. January.
Like
recently, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I told him what happened, and he asked, some questions to try to gauge, like, about that individual. And he was like, well, I believe you. And he was like, I can tell by your demeanor and how you're talking, is like, you're not angry. You just want to help people. Mm-hmm. And you want to help yourself. And that's really good. And he was like, one thing, I know for sure is when God puts something in your heart, it's because he wants it out there to help his children. And maybe the lost ones, or maybe the ones that are already found that needs help, through someone else. Yeah. And so I took that as like, you know what, I don't think I should be quiet. And I was also praying, for a sign from someone, mm-hmm. For God to align me with someone to give me that sign that I should talk. So then there was that. And then I kept praying of like, okay, so then how do I address it? How do I go about it? I don't want revenge. I don't want I just want to help people.
Yeah.
Then you messaged me, And I was like, God, stop it. Like, that's crazy, like how he works. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I think I think I've told you this before, but I am really, really proud of you. I know
Thank
we
you.
don't know each other like that, but I salute you because that does take a
Thank
lot of
you.
strength. And
Yeah.
sometimes you don't know the people around you that might be going through the same thing, but they just don't have the strength to say it out loud for the same reasons. It could be the feeling of shameful. And not only that, I feel like you made a good point with like not only being women, but it is more emphasized on women that go through that. And I think the sad thing is that it's the reason why a lot of women don't, or women or men, but why they don't speak up is because of others, like how others handle the situation towards them. It's always the you're probably lying, well, why were you there, or just victim blaming basically. And it's sad because it's more what is that word called, it's more what is that word, I always forget words. It's always more oh my gosh, I literally have it at the tip of my tongue and I can't like get it out, but it's you're more prone to receive more hate than more love when it comes to situations like that, because a lot of people dive into the whole, oh, they're doing it for attention or for something like that. And it's so sad because sometimes I think of like, why would that be your first thought, you know? Like, why would someone, I know that there has been situations where people lie about certain things. I get that. Not everybody's perfect. They might have their reasoning for that. But I think as a society, we need to do better at understanding that your first instinct should not be, that was the word, instinct. Okay. Your first instinct should not be to shame someone.
Yeah.
It's more understanding them and what can I do to help. Wow. But if you can't find it in your heart to help, maybe lead them to someone that can, or maybe just stay quiet. You don't have to say something sometimes. And I think people try so hard to either say the right thing or the wrong thing, but sometimes just a listening ear is so much more than saying something you
judgment.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, and that's why I think it's so, it takes, like I said, it takes a lot of strength to just say it. And given that you've been through so much as a child too, is not only now, it could have been so easy for you to backtrack and go to maybe an old way or have the suicide thoughts that you were saying. But I'm so glad you're here. I am so glad you're here, and I'm glad that you didn't do anything to harm yourself, because I think that you being here right now is a purpose for you to, if someone's watching and is going through something similar, it can get better. And it doesn't mean, you know, you went through a lot to get to where you are now. It doesn't mean that's going to be better by tomorrow. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions, a lot of negative thoughts sometimes, but it does not mean that you won't see your way out of things, you know? So I think that, so thank you. Thank you. I know you were thinking as me, but no, thank you for being here, because, it takes a lot.
It does. Yeah. But I also just want to say really quickly is like, you're right. There's a shame that comes in it. A lot of shame. But if you are watching and like you went through something similar, just know there's people out there that won't judge you. There's people out there that will believe you. And you shouldn't feel any shame. Because what I've learned is like a lot of people that have gone through it it's people that they know and people they let their guard down with. That's why they become victims. Like, you are a target, like you know, they got you to trust them and things of that nature. And that can look like so many scenarios. So don't feel shame because you trusted, and you had good intentions. And that shame that you were carrying, take that off and place it on them, because that's their shame. And one thing also that really helped me is I know it's hard, but if you can find it in you to not carry that anger, will help you so much in your healing. And forgiveness. Like, it's not for them, it's for you. And that's to set you free and for you to heal. Yeah, that's it.
No, that's a great message. That's a great message. But I know that I'm gonna link Angelica's stuff here below too. So if you guys have any questions, she's a great person to talk to you about anything that you might be going through, or maybe process that you need to take. If so, so feel free to message her. Like I said, I'll link her information below. To kind of just close out the episode, I kind of want to ask you a question. One last question.
Okay.
What is one advice that you would give your younger self, or that you wish that your younger self knew?
Love yourself. Love yourself, like, through and through. Yeah, have that self-confidence, because when you love yourself, like, it flows. People pick up on it. It helps you be a better person. And I'm also a believer in, like, you can attract certain people, you can attract certain situations based off of how you present yourself to the world. And so when you love yourself, like, it's hard for people to mess with you. It's hard for people to get away with certain things. That could be a boyfriend, girlfriend, work, school situations. Like, you will handle things better when you have that self-respect and that self-love. And yeah, I think that
No, that's huge, and I totally agree. I think that's a great message to just really send out to everybody. Again, if you guys hear that, Luna is gonna do it every single time for y'all, But I think that once you start understanding that, I think you made a good point by saying that if you respect yourself and you love yourself enough before you love anybody else and respect anybody else higher, like at a higher standard, you understand what you're worthy of, and like exactly how you said, like what you attract, because it's so easy for you to attract the wrong people when you see yourself negatively, you know,
and put up with a lot of things too.
Exactly. And so again, like with the trauma, like if you grew up with a lot of trauma and you've always been insecure about maybe the way that you are, the way that you look, and you put all these thoughts in you, it's going to be so easy for other people to just speak negatively on you or treat you negatively, because you don't feel that you deserve more. And I'm going to tell you guys, when you have God and you have like God's love, you understand that 1000% you deserve more, because love is not a love is the way sometimes love is perceived now in today's society is not how it really should be perceived. And again, everybody's gonna have different definitions on what it is to love or to be loved, but I would want to say that she's right. Like if you hold yourself at a high standard, you're gonna have little to no tolerance into how people treat you when it comes to them mistreating you, I would say. But thank you so much, Angelica, for being a part of this episode. I got to know you a little bit more, but I think that one last thing that I do want to tell you again is that I'm so glad that you're here. And I'm so glad that you have surpassed, or if you're still going through the waves, I'm so glad that you're here and that you're able to speak up, one, for yourself, but also be like an advocate for others that might be struggling. And I know you mentioned that you kind of found your voice, and I feel like you have too. And I think that you have also been, they're going to be a voice for others. And I think that you can see it right through you, and it radiates. So if you guys are struggling or going through something similar, whether it's self-harm, suicidal thoughts, or you have been feeling like you have not have that ability to speak out, I do want to say that while I might not know every answer in the world, there's someone always out there listening, one, It's always God.
Yeah.
But to keep a positive circle around you, and know that you are worthy of more, and you are deserve to be loved. But with that being said, I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.